Kristen TenDyke here with my autumn field socks to show you how to do the Kitchener stitch at the tip of the toe to get a nice smooth transition over the toe without a big bulky seam with a nice rounded corner so you don't get these little dog ears that stick off the edge. What you'll need is a tapestry needle and 2 double pointed needles. Your stitches, if you're working on a sock, will probably already be on double pointed needles. Okay, let's get started. For this video, I'm working on my autumn field socks, and I have an equal number of stitches on 2 double pointed needles, and they are held parallel together. For the Kitchener stitch, we're going to basically add another row between these two, joining them together, but instead of knitting, we'll be using a tapestry needle and a tail. To figure out how long of a tail you're going to need, I usually estimate about 3 times the length of the stitches. So you can eyeball that just by dragging the yarn once, twice, and 3 times across the length of, and I leave extra because it's always good to have more rather than not enough. So for the Kitchener stitch, we're going to start with a tail that's coming from the back needle. The first stitch we work into is in the front, so when it comes off the back, going to the front is a nice transition. We'll thread the tail onto the tapestry needle. And then for a sock, which is what I'm using this Kitchener stitch for, I want to avoid having little dog ears at the end. So in many Kitchener stitch videos that you'll see, or tutorials you'll see, they have you do some setup rows where the first front stitch is purled and kept on the needle, and then the first back stitch is knit and kept on the needle. However, we are going to skip those because I don't want to have little dog ears sticking off the end. I'd like it to have more of a curved edge. So there are 4 steps for the Kitchener stitch, and we are just going to repeat those 4 steps all the way across. The first step is to go into the first stitch of the front knitwise. So front knit off, and then the next stitch purlwise, and you keep that stitch on the needle. And then you go to the back, get this one out of the way, and you go to the back stitches, and you go through the first stitch on the back purlwise, and you slide that off the needle, and then go through the second stitch knitwise, but keep that on the needle. And you can pull that through. Each time you pull it through, just give it a gentle little tug. And we'll work with the front stitch again. So we go through the front knitwise and pull it off. And then the second stitch is purlwise and we keep it on. And I think it's easy to remember that the front stitch, the first stitch is knitwise because you're looking at the knit stitches. And then the first stitch on the back needle is purlwise because you're looking at the purl stitches. So the purlwise for the first stitch and off, and then knitwise for the second stitch, and you keep that one on. Just gonna give that a tug. And we just repeat these 4 steps all the way across. Knit off, purl on, and then purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. And I just like to repeat that mantra to myself as I'm going along, just to kind of keep me focused so I remember what I'm doing. Front knit off, purl on, and back purl off, knit on. And then at the end here, if you worked those beginning steps that we skipped, you would go through these stitches again. You would knit off and then purl off on the back. But we are just going to skip those to avoid those little dog ears. And then we'll just pull our tail tight there. And you can see that there is a nice join there. So now when you're tucking in your end, you just kind of want to go back behind this to pull it back so that it doesn't stick out. So what I like to do is, I see where it went into this stitch. I don't know, I just pick a stitch behind it and go down into it. So I'm going to go into this one and then pull it into the wrong side. And that gives us a nice rounded toe with a smooth edge here that doesn't have a bulky seam. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, please like and subscribe and check out some of the other tutorials on my page. And happy knitting!